Sport Integrity Australia, as part of its education program, has developed a flowchart for practitioners to help them understand the anti-doping risks of various medication, medical and performance supplements based on the Therapeutic Goods Administration and Food Safety Australia and New Zealand regulation. This is a complex flowchart with many considerations, and so we'll break it down step by step. For any practitioner considering the prescription or the recommendation of a medication, medical or performance supplement for an athlete, the first step is to establish a need in that individual athlete. Sport Integrity Australia does not provide advice regarding the effectiveness of supplements, and practitioners are directed to the resources on the left-hand side of the slide to assist in this regard. They include resources from the Australian Institute of Sport, the Australasian College of Sport and Exercise Physicians, and individual sport and National Institute network policies. Once a need has been identified, the first step is to determine if the medication or substance is a registered product with the Therapeutic Goods Administration. This will be denoted by AUST-R on the label and includes prescription medicines and some over-the-counter products. For AUST-R TGA registered medicine, practitioners are able to check the status of this substance in sport using Global DRO on the website provided. Global DRO will provide advice with this regards to the supplement of if it's permitted under all conditions or if it's prohibited. If a substance is permitted, we encourage practitioners to record the receipt number from Global DRO as evidence of due diligence in the prescription of a medication to an athlete. If it's prohibited, we direct practitioners and athletes to the Sport Integrity Australia website for information on how to apply for a therapeutic use exemption and the information required for ASMAC, Australia's Sports Drug Medical Advisory Commission, to assess any TUE application. AUST-R medications are considered to be the lowest risk with regards to anti-doping in the prescription of medications, medical or performance supplements. If a medicine is not a registered medicine with the Therapeutic Goods Administration, the next question for a practitioner to ask is the substance batch tested? Batch testing is a process conducted by an independent third party looking for wider prohibited substances within a supplement or medication. If a product is batch tested, it could be found on the Sport Integrity Australia app, or it might be listed on a batch testing company's website, such as HASTA or Inform Sport, which is LGC. Some sports may also individually batch test supplements prior to dispensing them to their athletes. For a substance to be on the Sport Integrity Australia app, it must be third-party batch tested, it must be available to purchase in Australia, and all batches of that particular substance must have been tested. For individually batch tested products conducted by a sport or National Institute network, we recommend athletes and practitioners asking for a certificate confirming that process. After confirming the substance has been batch tested, either through the app, listing on the HASTA or LGC website, or through a certificate provided by the sport, athletes and practitioners should check the flavour, the batch number and the expiry date to ensure that it matches that listed in the resource provided to them. And if this is the case, they should take a screenshot on their phone of the search. Practitioners and athletes should ensure that the details of the substance is entered into the athlete file, either the AMS, Athlete Management System, or any clinical file. It's also recommended that the athlete take a photo of both the front cover of the product or the front label and also the contents label. While batch tested substances are lower risk, it's important to note they are not 100% risk-free. If a product is not a TGA registered medicine nor batch tested, it may be a listed product with the Therapeutic Goods Administration. This is denoted by AUST-L on the label. This is most medical supplements, such as calcium or vitamin D in Australia. And it's important to note that a listing with the Therapeutic Goods Administration does not require the product to be tested or have proven efficacy. Some sports teams or state institutes and academies may have their Aust-L substances batch tested, in which case practitioners can follow the orange line above. If an Aust-L product has not been batch tested, a risk assessment that needs to be conducted by the practitioner and the athlete may include the number of ingredients and the country of manufacture. And we caution practitioners and athletes to avoid multi-ingredient formulations and to consider products that source Australian-made ingredients. This Aust-L category we denote as a moderate risk for anti-doping purposes. All other products we consider to be increased risk, and an informed consent process should include the risk of an inadvertent doping violation. We steer athletes and practitioners away from multi-ingredient, pre-workout, weight loss or muscle building supplements which are not batch tested, as we consider these to be high risk. There is a product available on the internet called Aegis Shield that allows the examination of certain substances, but only looks at the individual contents and therefore does not test for contamination and cannot be relied on to exclude the risk of anti-doping rule violation. This is reinforced also by the fact that checking of individual contents of substances does not exclude the risk of contaminants. For practitioners and athletes who may consider using a product in this high-risk category, we would strongly encourage you to consider individual batch testing of these products with an independent third-party group. And reinforcing again that the substances and approaches used in this line have increased risk from an anti-doping perspective. The most important point is to make sure that every athlete understands the principle of strict liability that applies under the WADA code, and that it's important for practitioners and athletes to carry out a risk assessment of any prescribed medication, medical and performance supplement. One area not dealt with by this flowchart is sports foods, which are regulated by Food Standards Australia and New Zealand and include things like electrolyte drinks, sports gels and food bars, which have minimal regulation. Some sports foods may be fortified with protein, and the risk posed by foods fortified with individual ingredients remains unknown. And we recommend a common sense approach where athletes discuss their use of these foods with a sports dietitian or sport and exercise physician. So in summary, it's important for practitioners to understand the different regulatory processes in Australia for medication, medical and performance supplements, and be able to advise athletes on the steps needed to reduce their anti-doping risk with regards to the use of these products. Further information is available on the Sport Integrity Australia website and through the app.